Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Armed Dragon deck. Now Armed Dragons are one of these level up type cards, and the basic idea is that you level them up and then use Armed Dragons that effect to destroy monsters very easily to try to control the field. This deck can be a little slow at times, but when you run this deck with like a hybrid like I'm doing with Dark Simorgh, it can lead to some very powerful combos and a lot of interesting things you could do. So first off, we have Armed Dragon level 3, so obviously very low attack, but nice that he gets special summoned, or he can special summon his next form very easily. Just have to stall, which is, fine for this deck. And then we have Dark Simorgh, so basically just a lock card. Combined with Armed Dragon, it's very annoying to deal with, and we're running a Wind Dark hybrid deck, so this just allows you to do a lot of really nice plays. And then we have Tour Guide from the Underworld, giving you access to 3-star XYZs and helping you fulfill the Dark requirement for the deck, which is very nice. Then we have Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo, so serving as a beater, serving as a dark type for Dark Simorgh, also serving as a way to get out Armed Dragon level 5, which is very nice. You can also run the other, transformation cards depending on what you're doing, but I currently like this build. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we have Armed Dragon level 5, so 2400 single tribute can get it out easily, and then Armed Dragon levels up into it, and you can send a monster to destroy your opponent's monsters, which is really nice, especially when you combine it with things like Dark Simorgh, where your opponent is going to have face-up cards. Then Flying Kamakari, very useful in this deck because we're getting out Armed Dragon right away, and if they have one monster, that kind of guarantees you Armed Dragon level 5. If they have two monsters, then it could be a little tougher, but if you have two Kamakaris, that'll be fine. So very useful for getting out what you need. And then Night Assailant, just a good card, obviously providing the next copy for a Tour Guide so you can XYZ again. And then we have Tempest, a great choice in this deck, giving you access to 7-star special summons and XYZs, giving you access to searching out things and banishing things and all that stuff, so very good card. Then Red Eyes in a dragon-based deck, definitely good. Only problem is we're limited on the actual amount of dragons we're using. We're only really using the Armed Dragons and Tempest, so it's actually debatable, but I still find that having Red Eyes is very useful, especially with all the searching that we're able to do. Then one Armed Dragon level 10. It's debatable how many high-leveled monsters you want to run in this deck, but when you have Armed Dragon level 10 up and you have Dark Simorgh up, your opponent's going to have real trouble, so this can definitely lead to some very powerful plays. And then also Armed Dragon level 7, just similarly, you can just destroy a bunch of monsters on the field. Again, it's, you want to figure out whether you want to run so many high-level monsters or not. I'm only running one of each of those guys. Then we have 2 MST, 2 Pot of Duality, level up helping us get those Armed Dragons out very quickly, especially with Armed Dragon level 5, where you have to destroy a monster, can be a little annoying. Dark Hole, Book of Moon, Sacred Sword of 7 stars, definitely good for this deck, giving it some draw power because we have a good amount of level 7s. For the traps, Super-Transformation, really powerful card, using your ninja and their monster to bring out Armed Dragon, which is very nice. Threatening Roar, good to stall in this deck so you can have time to bring out Armed Dragon. And then Staple Traps, not too much to say there. So now for the XYZ, we're going to have a variety of different levels. For the 3 stars for Tour Guide and Armed Dragon if you want to use it. Zenmaines, Leviair, Leviathan, always good choices. For the 4 stars, Maestroke, Master Key Beetle with Hanzo can be useful to protect things if you need. Gagaga Cowboy, Exciton, Silent Honor, Chidori in case you want to use 2 Flying Kamakaris for that, always a good card. 5 stars won't come out that often. It's only those 2 Armed Dragon copies you have, but I still like having access to cards like Volcasaurus and Terrace because they're very good. 7 stars, we also have a chance to get those out with Dark Simorgh and Armed Dragon level 7 and Tempest, so we have Dracosac, Big Eye. Dracosac, Big Eye, especially because they're light and dark, which is very good. Master of Blades, always a useful one to have as well. And then Gaia Dragon, obviously, definitely a good choice with those 5 stars, or when you're using your 7 stars, another option. So now for the side deck. Again, side decks in my videos are kind of just recommended cards that can also work with the main deck. When you're building this deck, you might want to consider these cards because they can be very useful. Phantom of Chaos is an interesting card, just allowing you to kind of abuse the fact that your Armed Dragons will be in the graveyard to level up with this card, which can be very interesting. Kokomaru Dragu, a really nice beater for a dragon type deck. When you're using my hybrid deck with dark types, this is a useless card, but against certain decks, this is very powerful and just helpful in this deck. Dark Armed Dragon is a choice because we're running like half Dark and half Wind, up to you. Wind Rose, if you're running like a full Wind deck, or even in this deck, this can be useful because we're getting a lot of Wind monsters to the graveyard with all the leveling up we're doing. But yeah, with Dark Simorgh we're also banishing, so I didn't want to run this. Level Modulation, another alternative to get out your Armed Dragons. Swords Revealing Light, good for two things. Good for stalling to get out Armed Dragons, and good for flipping your opponent monsters face up so you can use Armed Dragon's effect. After the Storm is another thing you can do to search out Wind monsters. Well, not search them out, but recycle them from the graveyard. But it's kind of tough to use because of that requirement that the field has to be empty. Creature Swap is an interesting choice, allowing you to destroy things more easily. Same thing with Shrink. Foolish Burial, obviously we're using the graveyard in a few different ways in this deck, so that can be useful. Burden of the Mighty can be very useful for this deck, helping our Armed Dragons get over cards so they can level up. Discard cards can be useful, Divine Wrath, stuff like that, to try to get stuff in the graveyard for Dark Simorgh and the other things that we'll be doing. Spiritual Wind Art can be useful if you're running, full Wind. This can be a really good card, but with my kind of hybrid setup, I didn't really want to run this. Cards like Light of Intervention and Ceasefire can be really, really good, accomplishing the same goal as Dark Simorgh, so your opponent can't put things face down, so you can keep using Armed Dragon's effect, which is very, very good. So that's my Armed Dragon deck. Just based on, getting those Armed Dragons out and using other cards that guarantee you'll be able to use Armed Dragon's effect. Can be very fun to play. Like I said, a bit slow, but definitely has some interesting possibilities. But if you guys have your own Armed Dragon decks, post below, let me know in the comments. Make suggestions for me. Maybe you have cards that can work in this type of deck that I don't know about. I'd definitely love to hear that. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.